King, what you done did now, boy? I'm finna come down there to Rice Street and whip yo.
Alright, you kids get to bed, I get the storybook.
King Harris and Lil Meech line up Eliantte the jeweler in the ATL trenches. King Harris never felt like he belonged in the world of luxury his father, T.I., had built. While his siblings embraced the fame, the riches, and the glamorous lifestyle, King rejected it. He despised the way people looked at him like he was soft, privileged, and out of touch. He wanted respect, and in Atlanta, respect didn't come from money. It came from the streets. His parents had tried to steer him away from trouble. T.I. gave him countless lectures about the dangers of the life he was so eager to be a part of, but King wasn't trying to hear it. Around age 12, he started spending time at his grandma's house in the rundown Mechanicsville neighborhood, where he started running with the younger brothers of members of a Crip set called Neighborhood. The members saw potential in him, but the OGs told him he couldn't become a part of what they was because he was too young at the time. A half a decade later, around age 18, he felt that he was ready to become a rolling 60s. Not because he was T.I.'s son, but because he was a real street dude who needed people to know that he was about that life. At first, the gangsters clowned him, mostly a 47-year-old OG named Papa Smurf because of his gray beard. Papa Smurf just so happened to be the first cousin of deceased rapper Shawty Low, who was the arch enemy of King's dad, T.I., back in the 2000s, and even though the beef never escalated to bloodshed, Papa Smurf still didn't like T.I. and considered getting some get back for his cuz who left Earth too soon, showing out for some bitches speeding in the Audi while lit out of his mind. As time went on, King committed random acts of clout chasing on the internet that helped prove that he was down to ride. He fought dudes, he hustled, and he moved like he had something to prove. He had a desperate need to be validated by the streets, but he still wasn't fully accepted. That all changed the day he came up with a plan to hit a lick and get a real bag that he could share with the gang. King's acquaintance, the BMF actor Lil Meech, has started rapping again after quitting years ago to learn acting. Due to rap mogul 50 Cent terminating the BMF TV series and also blackballing the determined MC in the music industry, he couldn't get a real buzz. He knew if King's dad co-signed him, his career would take off. But King wasn't about to ask his pops for favors because he knew he received a 5-hour lecture before still being told no. Instead, he promised Meech a different kind of come-up, one that would put some ice around his neck, which every real rapper needed to blow up. King's plan was to schedule a jewelry purchase from Elliot Eliantte, the famed hip-hop jeweler known for making icy custom pieces for rappers and athletes. Lil Meech knew Elliot very well, having blown over $1 million of the four he'd earned from his BMF acting days. King reached out to the jeweler, who had set up shop in Atlanta a few years ago since it was the city where all of the best rappers were from. Pretending he wanted to get a custom $1 million set of chains and bracelets as a surprise for his dad's upcoming birthday, he told Eliantte they had to meet at a specific spot in Mechanicsville, a rundown bando house where no witnesses would be around. Eliantte was cautious, but King reassured him, "It's all love, bro. I just don't want no cameras and security up in my business. You know how that shit go. It's supposed to be a surprise for my dad," he explained. Eliantte hesitated, but in the end, the $1 million deal was too good to pass up. The lick was set. On the night of the meeting, a week later, King had 9 of his Crip bros wait in the living room of the bando while him and Lil Meech waited out on the dilapidated front porch, which sagged on one side. They were both high, having popped a few perks and smoked a zip of za, amped up for what was about to go down. Lil Meech really wasn't about the criminal shit they were about to do, but ever since 50 disgraced him and his dad, they couldn't catch a break financially and maintain the multi-million-dollar lifestyle they were accustomed to, so he basically was stooping to low measures based on survival. King tried to play it cool, but anxiety pumped through his veins too. Finally, 30 minutes after he was supposed to show up, Eliantte pulled up in a black Lamborghini Urus SUV, standing out like a rolling plate of food in the poverty-stricken hood. He stepped out carrying a Louis Vuitton bag filled with the custom jewelry. His one security guard, an older white guy who had spent 6 years in the Air Force, stayed in the car per Elliot's command as he assured the old vet that both of the men waiting for him were minor celebrities that he'd done business with before. The moment he stepped into the abandoned house, the door slammed shut behind him. King and his crew rushed the slender diamond man, beating and stomping him into a bloody ball, stripping him of the bag. Eliantte tried to fight back, but he was outnumbered 11-1, and this just so happened to be his first violent encounter in his life, so he really didn't know how to react. What King, Meech, and the gangsters didn't know was that the jeweler had been live streaming on TikTok the whole time. His iPhone lying on the floor was still broadcasting. The world saw King's face clearly. They saw everything. "Easy lick, cuz. You one of us now." One of the homies laughed, slapping King on the back. King looked down at Eliantte, who lay on the floor, blood dripping from his torn lips and ruptured left eyeball. The jeweler coughed up more blood, trying to gather himself. "We out!" King commanded. They ran out of the rear door of the abandoned house and hopped into separate cars, parked on the next street over, peeling off into the Atlanta night laughing. They thought they had just pulled off the easiest lick ever. But they had no idea Eliantte's phone had been live the whole time. The footage was already trending on social media. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok were flooded with comments. Did King Harris just rob Eliantte on camera? Ain't no way, bro. His whole face is clear as day. T.I. better get his son a lawyer ASAP. King didn't check his phone until he got back to the spot. When he finally did, his heart dropped. He scrolled through his phone in disbelief. Every major blog had picked up the video. TMZ, The Shade Room, Joe Budden. His name was everywhere. Lil Meech, sitting next to him, was still admiring one of the diamond chains they had just stolen. "Yo, this shit hittin'," he said, flashing the jewelry under the light. King wasn't even listening. "We got a problem," he muttered. He called one of his connects in the Atlanta area PD, his uncle on his mama's side named Jermaine. "Unc, what they saying about me?" His uncle, a Gwinnett County police corporal, hesitated before answering. "Hey, nephew, they launching an investigation right now. This ain't no small thing. You on camera, little badass nigga?" King hung up, his hand shaking. He tried to think. He had a little money, but did he have enough money to make this go away? And then the worst call came in. It was his dad. "Tell me you ain't do what I just saw online, King." T.I. S voice was cold. King swallowed hard. "It ain't even like that, Pops." "Don't lie to me, boy," T.I. snapped. For the first time, King felt like a kid again. No gang affiliations, no street cred, just a son being checked by his father. "You done lost your damn mind, King," T.I. continued. "You know who the fuck Eliantte is? He plugged in with the Italians. He got friends in high places. You think they gonna let this slide?" King didn't say anything. "You gonna need a lawyer," T.I. said. "And you better pray that video don't get you put away for a long time." King hung up, his head pounding. Things were spiraling out of control, and they were about to get even worse. King barely slept that night. His phone wouldn't stop blowing up. Some homies were laughing, calling him a legend. Others were warning him to lay low, but the worst text came from his mother, Tiny. "King, please come home. Your daddy is losing his mind. The police just left our house." Tiny, "They got a warrant out for you. You need to turn yourself in before they find you first." King gritted his teeth. 12 moved fast. He wasn't planning on turning himself in, though. Not yet. He needed a way out, a plan, something.
Why you staring at my booty like that? Since you want to act all thirsty, you need to hit that like and subscribe button for this video. You keep staring at my booty and I'ma tell my man GK and he ain't gonna let you watch his stories no mo.
But before he could think, another call came in, this time from Lil Meech, who was crying because even though he didn't even lay a foot or finger on the white boy, his dad told him he was still an accomplice and could get the same amount of time as King and the Crips. King, irritated with Lil Meech's softness, abruptly hung up on him. "Lame-ass light-skinned dudes will never be about that life." King then called up one of his OG Crip homies, Papa Smurf, and asked him for help. "Boy, You done put yourself in the lake of fire. The 5', 10" brown-skinned thug chuckled when he answered the phone. I need to get out of the city, OG, King said, voice shaking. Smurf sighed. You got some paper? You know I do, OG. Meet me at the apartments on Cedar Hill in Bankhead. Don't bring nobody else. We gotta get you somewhere safe before 12 pussy ass get you. King agreed and hung up. Before he left, he stuffed a duffel bag full of cash, at least $150,000, and grabbed a burner phone. Then he slipped out the back door of his and disappeared into the Atlanta night. After Papa Smurf hung up the phone with King, he immediately called Atlanta PD and inquired about the $75,000 reward for the murder of the jeweler, Elliot, who had succumbed from the injuries caused by his attack. A sergeant was given King's whereabouts, and Papa Smurf grinned as he was given instructions on how to anonymously come collect his reward. Just 78 seconds after King arrived at the apartment building to meet Smurf, Atlanta SWAT pulled up to his silver Range Rover, fully automatic rifles pointed at him as he cowered in the driver's seat sweating. Helicopters hovered overhead. Regular Atlanta PD officers with weapons drawn backed up SWAT. One of the officers shook his head. All that money your dad got and you robbing people. T.I. and Tiny arrived on the scene shortly after, watching helplessly as officers placed their baby boy in the back of one of their units. After being yelled at by his parents through the half-open window of the police cruiser, King Harris was transported to the city jail. Elliot was dead. How? We just jumped him. We ain't even pop him with the stick or nothing. The reality of the situation hit him like a brick. A murder case. No light charges. No slap on the wrist. This was serious. As the Charger sped down the freeway, the officer escorting him smirked. Big time gangster on Instagram, huh? Talking all that street shit. The cop leaned forward. Let's see if you still tough when you get to Rice Street. You better hope they don't put you up in 500 North. A Crip just got killed in there last night. King glared at him. He wasn't about to give him the satisfaction of breaking. Hours later, King was processed at Fulton County Jail fingerprinting. Mugshots. DNA swabs. He was initially placed in solitary while they figured out where to house him. Then, a red-headed, obese guard knocked on his cell. You get one call, son. King took a deep breath and picked up the phone. He only had one number in his head. His dad. The phone rang twice. Hello? T.I.'s voice was calm, but King could hear the disappointment behind it. Dad! Sit tight, King. Me and your mama trying to get in there to see you now. Boy, what the hell did you get yourself into? King closed his eyes, feeling the weight of everything crashing down. I need help. I sighed. I told you, son. I warned you ass time and time again. And now you sitting on Rice Street? King's throat tightened. So you just gonna let them bury me? I took a long pause before answering. I'ma do what I can. We downstairs. Then he hung up. King just stood there, the dial tone buzzing in his ear. You sure you want to see him right now? You look 38 hot, Tip? Corporal Jermaine Harris asked his brother-in-law. King's uncle met his parents down at the jail to assist in getting them in to see him. The legendary rapper clenched his jaw. He hated the idea of his son being locked up, especially for something as big as a body, but he also knew how things worked in the streets. Let me talk to him first, T.I. said. His brother-in-law nodded, motioning for him to go into the cell he was being housed in temporarily. T.I.P. was in the cell with his son no less than 3 minutes before the sound of a leather belt connecting with human flesh filtered out into the hallway where everyone stood watching. Before the 2 jail guards in attendance rushed into the cell to stop an angry dad from giving his son a good old-fashioned you-know-what, T.I. yelled out that he should have whipped King's ass a long time ago. The next morning, King was shackled and escorted into a small courtroom. His public defender was waiting, some bald-wired dude in a cheap TJ Maxx suit who barely even looked at him. Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty, the slick-looking lawyer said. The prosecutor smirked. We have video evidence of the robbery. Denied bail. King clenched his jaw as the guards grabbed him. His mama, Tiny, was in the front row with his grandma and siblings crying. His dad was nowhere to be found. Back in holding, King sat on a hard cot staring at the wall. He heard the metal door unlock and a skinny black guard stepped in. "Yo, celebrity," the guard said. "Time to go to general population." King swallowed hard. He had heard stories about Rice Street from all the times his pops and homeboys went. All horror stories. This was the biggest county jail in the state of Georgia. It wasn't for petty criminals. This was where killers, gangs, and drug dealers sat waiting for decades-long bids. As he was led into the main unit, hundreds of eyes locked onto him. Some looked curious, others predatory. King had spent his whole life trying to be street. Now he was about to find out if he was built for it.
If one of y'all little niggas want to meet the same fate as King, then keep doing what you doing out there in them streets. But if y'all don't think y'all can handle the pressure of jail, then I vehemently advise y'all to get out them streets and go get a 9 to 5 so you won't have to worry about catching a body charge.